Well. Welcome back to the Confidence Igniter podcast. And I am your host. My name is Tamiko Green. Well, we have a wonderful show for you today. I'm being joined by this fabulous, phenomenal woman, Caroline Coffin, who is an intake therapist. And so today, our topic today is mental wealth. Our topic today is mental wealth, the currency of confidence. As some of you probably know, and those that don't know, this is October is considered Mental Health Month. So today we're going to dive into this conversation of mental wealth. And I'm sure you're going to enjoy it. So let's go ahead and get this party started. But before I do, Carla, I just want to tell you thank you for joining me on this day. And also, is there anything that you would like to say to the audience before we really get started?
Well, first and foremost, I'd like to say thank you so much for having me back. And the fact that you are delving in on a topic that is near and dear to me, oftentimes don't, take much, give much attention to our mental health. So I am honored to be here tonight and to be able to be a part of the show tonight. So thank you for having me again.
You are very welcome. Well, as you know, because you've been here on the show before, I'll have questions. So let's go ahead and dive into our first question. Tell me, how does our mindset affect the way we see ourselves and our confidence in our daily?
That's a very good question. Our mindset has a lot to do with how we view ourselves. Oftentimes, depending on your level of confidence in yourself, that impact has a lot of impact on your level of self-esteem, how you see yourself, and oftentimes just understanding that you matter, which is something that I had the honor and the privilege of taking a course not long ago, being in this field, because you always have to stay update. But even being in this field, oftentimes it gets you become so consumed in everything that, when others come and with their plates being full and you're trying to help them, we forget that how important our mental health is. So it is very key to paying attention, to being mindful how the mindset is an important key factor, and everything that we do and how we approach things, how we think, the things that we say, all of those things have a great impact on your mental health.
All right, I like that. And I think a lot of times we don't realize how our mind plays such a role in our life. How we think, how we feel, how we show up to the world. A lot of times, I believe sometimes we don't consider that. Sometimes we probably think when things happen in our life, this has something to do with something else, but never we don't look at it. It's a mind thing, and being able to understand that I think makes a difference in our lives. So we live in a world that tend to praise performance over peace. And how would you say people could actually protect their mental space while still showing up strong?
The key thing for me, I believe, is especially when you're thinking about performance, is often you really want to see where you are. You want to understand whom you are and what you're capable of, and understanding it's okay to be able to not you don't have to be perfect in everything that you do, but just being sure and of who you are and what you can do, which means whatever it is you're able to do and your confidence helps you to bring, your A game, or whatever that means, or whatever that may be for that individual. And then also understanding that oftentimes we can be our own worst critic. We can be so very hard on ourselves, especially when you thinking about your job and whatever it is your experience may be in. But we are very hard on ourselves, and it doesn't help if you work in an environment or a corporate environment where there's they have very high expectations on you, and your main goal is to be able to live up to those expectations. But the key thing is being able to understand who you are and being confident in what you are and what it is you can do when you're dealing with any form of performances. And then understanding, you can't give what you don't have. You can't pour from an empty cup. You have to be able to understand, like I said, appreciate yourself and understand where you are and who you are.
I like that. You cannot pour from an empty cup. Some people try to pour from an empty cup, and it's hard because when you're trying to give to others what you don't have yourself, when you're trying to be a lot to others and really you don't have that confidence within yourself, that is hard, pouring from that empty cup. But as you were speaking, it just reminded me that how important confidence is. I don't even people sometimes realize you cannot move unless you have confidence that you can. You wouldn't even leave your house if you didn't have the confidence that wherever you were going, that you will get there safe and get back safe. Or whatever you're doing, whether it's a task, if you're at work, if you don't even have confidence to do your job, you won't. You'll do it, but you won't do it with your full ability. And understanding how important it is to have that confidence. And that's a mind thing. And like you were saying earlier, now we are our biggest worst critics. Like, it's so interesting how we will like pat others on the back and say, "Oh, you did a good job. You keep going." Like we can be cheerleaders for other people, but when it come down to ourselves, we be like, "Man, I know you could do better than that. How you gonna mess that up?" When with other people, we be like, "It's okay, it's okay." So, but I do have a couple of more questions for you. So, what are some silent ways that poor mental health can chip away? Because when you've got strong mental health and you have that confidence, nothing really stops you because you're confident in what it is that you're doing or how you move into life. But
One of the things, the key thing that oftentimes that can chip away at anybody's confidence is a person's take low self-esteem, for example. A person with low self-esteem is one that oftentimes you're going to second guess yourself. That in itself is enough to make you feel that, am I good enough? Worthy enough? I think the key thing of being able to combat those things is being able to acknowledge and validate yourself for who you are, which is oftentimes depending on where you are mentally, oftentimes we fail to do. And then being able to contemplate the nature of your mind, understanding what your capabilities are. What am I capable of doing? Am I able to do this? And the key thing that oftentimes that tend to chip away at one's ability to be able to do the things that they would normally do is the things we tell ourselves. Oftentimes we could actually psych ourselves into believing that you can't do the very thing that if you only just kind of step out on a little faith, you can actually do those very things. And I think those are some things that for many people, it eats at your level of confidence, it eats at your mindset. I think those are some of the things that, especially when people who deal with anxiety, people that deal with anxiety, when they become overwhelmed, a lot of that has to do because you're overthinking. You're overthinking yourself. You're second guessing yourself. You are find yourself in this space and, you have to, take a deep breath and then realize, okay, let me take a moment back. And when it's all said and done, when all of these things have happened, and now you done psyched yourself in believing that, wow, I can't do this. Or is it possible? But then in all actuality, it is. One thing I believe in, I'm firmly believe in that everything and anything is possible. But it's only possible if you believe. And it's okay to ask for help. And I believe oftentimes even in the most confident individual, because you get so caught up in doing the things that you do, you feel like, okay, I got this. I don't need to ask for help, even in something that you may need help in. And it's okay. It's okay to ask for help. It's okay to be able to ask someone, especially if it's something you're not sure of, to help you to stay accountable or to hold you accountable for those things that you're trying to do. And then being able to understand that no matter whatever it is that you set your mind at doing, it's workable. It's not only workable for you, but the same way it's workable for someone else, it's workable for you. It's just a whole new different dynamic. We all unique in our own way. So what works for him and whatever this person decides to do it in, maybe that's what works better for them. But it doesn't mean because Billy Joe does it this way that you can't do it. You just have to find your own unique way of doing what it is that you do best. Whereas this will help you to become successful. But as I mentioned before, oftentimes it's just understanding your mindset, accepting yourself for where you are, being able to validate, what it is you are able to do and learn to, instead of negative self talk, speak some affirmations, some positive things. Those are some things where you can help convince yourself, into things that you normally wouldn't think you could do. It's those negative things that actually will chip away at a person's at your mindset. Because now you just psyched in all of those negative things that you're saying to yourself. You've literally psyched yourself in believing that this is something I can't do when you don't
Mm.
know if you can do it or not because you didn't dare to try because you're busy, sabotaging yourself with the things that you are speaking negative.
Right, I like that. And you hit on like several different areas. And when you were talking about knowing, like, have that confidence in yourself, I think sometimes we may have the confidence in ourselves, and then sometimes we depend on other people to, like, just validate us. And there are times that when you want to go forth and do different things, there will be people that talk you out. There will be people that will not believe what it is that you want to do. And so tell me this, can you share a time when taking care of your mind helped you to rebuild your confidence and to find what
Yes, I can. I used to, when I was younger, I had a complex. Then, because I was so shy, it was hard for me, or at least this is what I told myself. These were things that I believed growing up as a youth, and then listening to others put you down and tell you what you couldn't do. You're not good enough. And being young, your mind is still developing and things. And for me, hearing those things growing up, I developed a complex. I used to didn't think I wasn't good enough. The thing that helped me the most to come out of that, I went for my first job interview. I think about this all the time. And I really wanted this job. And I really appreciate this employer for what she said to me. I went in there, I sat down, and she was prepared. I was dressed, in the best business attire. But when I sat down, the first thing I didn't do was look her straight in the eye. My head was down. And she looked at me and she was answering the questions. I don't quite remember what it was I said, but the one thing that stuck with me that I remember most of all was the fact she asked me, she says, "You really want this job, don't you?" I says, "Yes, I really do. I need this job." She says, "Well, I'm not going to give you the job because whenever you go into any place and any type of interview, you want to always look that person in the eye. That way you help them to see that you are confident in what it is that you know and what you do and what it is that you can bring to the table." That stuck with me and helped me to realize that I need to get it together. Because even though I did not get the job, but I got something even better. I was educated and helping me to understand that I can't go through life with my head
well,
down. I can't go through life regardless to what Jane Doe, Sally Doe may have said to me. That's their opinion. Everyone is entitled to their opinion. But one thing that you can change is you can change yourself. One thing you cannot change what others think about you. You cannot understand change what people say about you. You cannot even change people's opinion about you. But the one thing, the very thing that you can change, and it was the one thing that I learned, is that I can change myself. I can change the opinion about myself, and I can actually change how I feel about myself. And which lead me to the key thing of how you feel about yourself is learning how to love yourself. Because when you learn to love yourself and you have that confidence of who you are, you validate yourself in that moment that no matter whatever it is you do or wherever you go, you can step into that with the confidence of any person that's out here and let them know, I am sure of who I am. And one thing I practice on a day to day is affirmation of who I am. And I know for me being who I am, the fact that I help myself to understand that, and speak this to myself, helps me to validate when I go out each and every day. I'm sure I have that confidence because I've just validated myself. I've validated who I am. And those things that we as a whole have to understand, but when you don't have that, I get it because I was that person who was there once upon a time. So if it's anything that I can leave with anyone to understand is to love thyself. My mother used to always say self-preservation is the first law of nature. Meaning, you cannot love anyone else until you love yourself. You cannot do anything else for anyone else until you do it for yourself. So, and that always stuck out with me. And I oftentimes finding myself sharing that with clients who come in who deals with low self-esteem. That self-preservation is the first law of nature.
I like that. And that is so true. You can't love others until you really love them. And I'm a firm believer that, when we're able to love ourselves, our life gets better. Believe when we start to believe in ourselves, we love ourselves, it builds our confidence up. We realize that there's nothing but we can. And I think that is so important, and especially in the society that we're living in today, living like, Facebook, TikTok, and Instagram, a lot of times people look for likes, how many people like what I said, do they like what I did? And sometimes when we don't get those, and sometimes it can chip away at you like, man, I thought I did something great, or, but you don't base your confidence in their life through like you said, through like, they would done like, because you can't change how other people think about it. You only can change it. And if you truly love yourself and you know, hey, stop, I'm my own superhero. And I think that is so important for us, I am my superhero. So my life. And I think when we look at this thing, it helps to boost us. It boosts our mental, because from a mental standpoint, we don't have the low self-esteem. And I'm not saying that other not in order to be able to claim it, but you want to have the confidence if you keep women, you look it to the top, right? So I just think that is so important. So, well, we're kind of getting down to the end of our time for the show. But before we go, is there anything else that you would like to share with someone that maybe is in a situation where, they're, they're having a lot of issue with building relationships, even, just having issues with mental health as a whole. And I know you could say call it mental health. It is mental health. I like to also describe it as
One of the things I would like to share with everyone is something that I often ask my clients. Understanding, are you aware of your inner strength? And I like to call your inner strength your superpower because your inner strength, when you understand what that is, that means you can do anything to help you to overcome or face or navigate any challenges. Meaning, no matter what you face or where you go, so long as you are aware of what your inner strengths are, you can conquer anything because now you're aware of what your inner strength and which I like to call your superpower. And I know for me, my superpower is being able to work with others, but my greatest superpower is the fact that I am a determined individual to always be my best and do my best and give my best when it comes down not only to myself first and foremost, but then that also allowed me to give my best and do my best with those that I'm able to help and serve.
Well, I want to say thank you for joining me once again, and thank you for sharing your knowledge with everyone. So, thank you once again for joining us. I hope you have a wonderful week. Until we meet again, enjoy the rest of your day. See you later.
See you later.